It's March 15th, 2024, the day after Pi Day. And it's a Friday. And I'm going to look at some photos. I shot 3 rolls this week: HP5, Tri-X, Double X. And I developed them in hot Xtol 90 degrees for 9 minutes. I made 2 videos because I wanted to go into detail about my development process. I've had some questions about it, but I didn't want that to sort of become half of this video. So 2 videos came out today. One is all about the development process with Xtol. I call it a +4 push. I'm underexposing compared to like a box speed metering by like 2.5, sometimes 3 stops. And then I go for this really aggressive push. And last couple of my videos have been about this. And so this is just more sample photos, right? And I'm focused on looking at these different film stocks and how they respond to it, and sort of seeing how they're different and right which ones I like and why. I am going to sort of take my time because it's Friday and it's a nice day outside. So here we go. My first shot, as many of you know, is usually of my cat because I load my film right here. So, you know, a black cat with pushed film, right? It's like, but it looks good. You know, you can really see his little white spots. This is Lewis. And also like the way just sort of all the detail drops out here in these shadows. Yeah, he looks pretty comfortable. And that's about the pace I'm going to go today, right? Is about the pace that Lewis is feeling in this photo. And my son George he got this fun game. It's called Kids Against Maturity. He did get a little upset with me that I was wanting to take photos instead of start the game. But look at the photo I got. Right? Cat's by the window. And he actually knew it was cute. Right? I have a photo here in a second of him going over and cuddling with them. But yeah, I got a picture of him prepping the game. Right? I like these backlit scenes. Yeah, I did sort of get, a little bit of light on his face, right? But that, this the push look, right? I'm really dropping the shadows off, so it's. He's giving Amos a hug. You think Goldie's like, hey, give me a hug too? Yeah, he's very sweet with the cats. Now this was sort of a fun one for me because this is actually early morning light. Right? I'm like, but I'm using pushed film, pushing the film, so it's like, visualizing this in my mind of how it'll look. But it doesn't really look much of like this at all because it's, right, the sun's really not shining much yet. But I like how it turned out. This is, oh yeah, I forgot to say, these are XX. I'm starting with XX. And I'm pretty excited by the grain here. Right, this is like the combination of sharpness and grain is spot on for me. You'll notice a lot of my croppings. Right, I just like 4x5 as a crop. This is all 35 millimeter film. But I often crop to 4x5 or whatever. Right? I try not to be constrained by traditional croppings. This is that same truck. I sort of wanted to create the feeling of the bed of the truck there kind of vanishing. Right, and I gave priority to the license plate, both in terms of where I focused and like exposure. I also sort of liked how the ball head was here. Again, like this only works because it's a push shot. This is pretty boring without the push. If you're curious about my lenses up to this point, I'm carrying two 35s. I have two of my favorite lenses are both 35 millimeter, and they have slightly different strengths, so I take them both with me. One's a early Summicron, version 1 Summicron, and then the other one's the pre-spherical Summilux. Which when I push this hard, it's sort of hard to tell the differences. Right, a lot, sort of a lack of fine detail. Right, the Summicron will be sharper if I could inspect it, but I can't really inspect it when I'm ramping up the grain like this. This is my wife. And she's actually getting home, so that actually tells me the time. So this is 7:30 in the morning. And she's wondering what I'm doing, right? But notice that this one's actually not that pushed, right? I mean, it is, right? It was in the same tank. But I gave this extra exposure because my wife was inside the car, and I just didn't want, right? I didn't want to crush her in the shadows. So I gave it extra exposure. And then that sort of does, if I want to, I could edit this so it doesn't really look like it went through extreme development. I've taken this shot, I don't know, 5 or 10 times. I sort of like this water tower, like this ominous water tower. And the way this house sort of has like a face to it with eyes and a mouth and even sort of like a haircut, right? I'd say this is probably the best I've got of this shot. And again, it's the pushed film that really helps it. Especially the way like this thing over here just like disappears as a dark shadow. Now, you can tell I'm cropped in a bit. I sort of like that, right? I like the grain showing a little more. And I just had some elements around that border that I wanted to remove. And I got down on the ground. You can kind of see my perspective's really low, shooting up on this sign. Let's go into 100%, do a little grain check. Yeah, that's where I really like this XX hot Xtol combination. I recently did a video where I was like, look how similar XX and Xtol are. My feelings have changed now that I've done some heavy pushing. And the short version, as we'll see in this video, is just like, and I might change my opinion during the video, right, is that I just get more excited about the grain with XX, among other things, but that's a big one. I even sort of like these limbs over here, kind of, right, this is probably 2.8, and I'm going to guess it's the Sumalux. Sumalux does a nice job of having soft corners. If I want sharper corners, I'll do the Summicron. I like that this was a gate for no fence. There used to be a fence there. It's gone. In a way, this pathway sort of curves and goes around the corner. Now I live on what is like basically Cemetery Hill. I have like 5 or 6 cemeteries within a 10-minute walk of my house. Right, what I liked here was just this like outline of where they've just buried someone. A little bit of a tractor path where they've driven over it. And a lot of times I take pictures of the gravestones, but this one I wanted to just capture right that dirt outline. Kind of, we all know what that is. This is one I was like hesitant to take the picture, but then when I saw the negative, I got really excited. And then when I made the picture, like I'm just sort of neutral about it. But what caught me, right, is this is actually, right, some people know what this is, but this is a way of burying people. And then you can come in and you can write on these little rocks messages or draw on them. Now this one only has a few, but over time it'll collect more and more. Right, so there's a little bit of a clue in there for somebody who knows. Now this one I really like. I notice I cropped it 4x5. Right, just the sort of the balance of the elements. And right, just these couple of interesting objects down here. Then we get this like, right, electricity, whatever you call that, casing along the edge. This sort of these interesting window that, right, the highlights get bright there, and then just like the tones and the texture on the wall. So maybe not doing it for you, but for me, I like this one a lot. And look at the grain again. That's just like doing it for me. Now my kids just like made up this game and we're having so much fun. I wish I could. It would be sort of fun if I could see the words that they wrote. Right? That's, you're giving that up with this much pushing, where the fine details wash out. Which most of the time I really like that. Right? It's the reason I shoot film, is I I don't like how digital shows us all our skin pores. But here I would really enjoy to see the words that they've made up when they're playing this dice game. But it's something, probably some sort of potty humor. But I take all these pictures, but the ones of my kids are always my favorite. Again, this is still early morning. This is all the same morning, by the way, right? Um, I think I think I shot all of the double X and the tri X in the same day. Um, the sun is beaming through the trees, right? And this is a rangefinder, so I can't quite perfectly align. I probably could figure it out, but right, I didn't perfectly align to hide the sun, and I sort of didn't care. I was like, whatever, I'll let the sun come through. Um, but I just like this giant line of trees, right? And I've switched over to 25 millimeter now. Again, you can still see how early it is in the morning. No, you know what? Actually, it doesn't matter. But this is actually a second morning. That's right. This is a different morning. I just sort of liked how we're like, some compost truck driver is going to pull up on this and just be like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? You couldn't break those down anymore?" I wish I'd had a filter and could have separated those a little bit more from the background, but yeah, I took a picture of a trash can. Again, it's sort of here. It's just like looking at the film character as much as composition or anything. And the push, right? The push kind of makes this cool, right? That's what's great about pushing film, right? Is it definitely shows you the world in a way different than what you kind of you saw with your own eyes. Although I sort of estimate, right, a push by squinting. But it doesn't look like this. That'd be pretty neat if you could just squint and see a pushed reality. Now, I wanted to get this interesting building, but I just wasn't finding a composition that I liked, and so I brought the tree into the picture. I don't know. I sort of like it, sort of don't. There's a spirit to it that I like, but I think I don't know, maybe missed on the execution. Maybe a different cropping would help me out. Have I switched to Tri-X yet? No, I have not. This is still double X. I think. I gotta check. I'm looking at my other photos. See them when I switched over. Man, did I switch over here? I've switched over. Look at me not remembering. I actually think this is the first shot of Tri-X. Yeah. So that's Tri-X. Tri-X. Yeah, there we go. Tri-X. Oh yeah, so this shot. I sort of liked how cool this shadow was over here. And then I see how my hand, I'm sort of like trying to be a crazy shadow too. And a little bird joined me, but you can't really see it. Can we see a little bird? He's right here. You can't see him. Um, I stopped down. This is really like 3 or 4 stops under box from a central weighted metering. Right, I wanted to make sure that the lion, it's in pretty much direct sunlight, and I didn't want to put that too. I didn't want that to end up on the shoulder and to lose all detail. So I was willing to sort of sacrifice everything else in the shadows. Um, Now this is just like a cool, like a brick pattern I wanted to bring out, right? Shooting the 25. And I got lucky where I was about to take it, and then look, somebody walked in right here. This is a bridge, which, I'm not big on like taking pictures of strangers I don't know, especially on like, this is a college campus, right? That's a little weird. But they're far enough away, right? I think I got away with it safely. Now this is the Fine Arts Building, and I often go over there because they'll put out cool art, right? And this was sort of like a mishmash of sticks and yarn that somebody had made an art piece right outside the building. So I used it as like a foreground for this reflection that ended up in the window. Now, I love this shot. This is Amos. He's getting bigger, isn't he? I had to open this one up a little bit because I didn't want to totally lose him. I like that window light too. This is the Sumalux. Now, one nice thing about the Tri-X is, right, you get an extra stop of speed. So, right, I'm shooting at 1600. Makes indoor photography a lot easier. Well, I mean, not a lot easier, right? Double X is still pretty fast at like 1000 or 1250. Got my 2 cats in here, and my son's playing video games. That's what he likes to do when he comes home, usually. That's Ellery. And I get it. I was a kid once. This would be one I wish that I could have also had in Double X. I feel like this is a difference in Tri-X and Double X. Where look how much gray this is, and it's like it has a tendency to have more gray and sort of more like the same tone gray. I don't know what that is. It kind of makes you wonder if, like, I don't know, Tri-X is... I'm not going to guess. I'm going to embarrass myself. I like the grain. I do. I've liked these Tri-X grain shots enough where I'm gonna keep shooting it and enjoy the extra speed. But it almost makes me think like 90 degrees might not be enough. Like, let's go even higher. My son George is looking out the window. Yeah, I like how the light was hitting him His shape sort of matches this pattern back here a little bit. My wife painted the fireplace white. It helped for this photo. Speaking of my wife. So there's Goldie, right, hanging out in that spot. You know, the boys build these like piles of pillows and blankets, and then after they're done playing with them, the cats find them. Oh, sorry if that was a loud laugh. You know, my kids and my cats, right? They're sort of spoiled. Look at all these like comfy, soft pillows and blankets, and you know, by the sunlight, the windows. I like this as a push shot, right? I like these drop shadows. I like that the belly really popped with white. Again, there's something about all the gray here that I'm just like, I don't feel like I get that with double X. But hard to know. Maybe it's just the nature of the grain that makes it, right, just perceive it a little differently. If you're familiar with my channel, you'll recognize this. I almost take this with every roll I shoot, right? It's like my go-to test scene. Somehow I get it every day, where I think this is just always in my life and available. It's like a test scene. It just lives there for me. This is the Summilux. You can kind of see that. I think this is 2.8 with the Summilux. It doesn't have the sharpest corners until you stop down to like 5.6 or f8. Which I think is cool. It's like at f2, definitely by 2.8, there's no vignetting. And the comb is gone, but there's still like a softness to the corners. A little action shot, right? Goldie's got her ears. Look at her ears. I don't know what Lewis is doing. I guess they both want this chair. They want to be in the picture. And I got Amos doing who knows what. And again, the grain is nice, but there's something about it that's like, it's almost too sharp or something. I might just need to back off my sharpening. I don't have much of sharpening applied at all, but it's like over here. I mean, that's 200%, right? But like, right, grain, which is a very subjective perspective in your brain type of phenomenon, right? It can, zooming in is sort of a lie about what the experience is going to be like zoomed out, right? Or printed, right? They're different. You might see the grain differently. I just think this bush is awesome, right? And the way it's sort of wild. And it's just like right in front of their house and sort of blocks their whole porch. And that's probably not what they think about it, but I walk by it and I'm like, what is this bush? I think this tree's got a cool shape to it. I'm using the Summilux at 2.8, trying to make the background a little bit soft. I don't know. I haven't nailed that shot. It's a cool tree. Someday I'll come back with the right lens, probably a 50, and when the light's hitting it a little better. But even then, it's like, you know, whatever. It's not the greatest. I'm just crossing the street, right? But curious what a pushed film would do to the road. Again, it's like, I don't know if, I've heard people talk about Tri-X grain being kind of gritty. And it is sort of what it looks like. But I think that's in reference to like original Tri-X, not 400TX. Yeah, I took this photo. I sort of liked how there was this number, right? It must be for like a house address or something, but then it's just like a wall of bush. And the pushed film gives it that, it pops the white, right, and drops a lot of the shadows. So I think that's kind of neat. The light was not great for this shot, but I, took it anyways. Just this enormous mass of vine, or of like thorny vine. And then I like, this little mirror here. I actually know those people. Those are my friends that live there. Now this one I wanted to give the impression of the house being right back there, and I sort of liked the outlines of, right, the trim outline. Right, unless this was sort of the sun coming through here, so, sort of an interesting light to it. I walk by these quite a bit. I always want it to be a better photo. The light, again, was not. I'm trying to see if pushing the film could kind of save the lighting. I like it, other than I wish the lighting was a little different. It's sort of, all this detail, all the limbs sort of get lost in sort of a noise. That's the 35 Summilux. Now this was a tricky one for a push, for like a big push, because you can tell it's full sun, right? Look at the shadow, and it's hitting the front of this gravestone, right? This is full sun. I'm shooting Tri-X at 1600, right? So I think I stopped down to like f11, and I'm shooting at 1/2000th of a second. Because I want to make sure that I wanted this to be more of a mid-tone as opposed to just a blown highlight, and I wanted to try to make the flowers really pop. Just for like those technical reasons, I kept this one in the slideshow, even though it's not the best photo. Yeah, a garage. Just sort of cool look at a pushed image. Okay, let's switch over to the HP5. That one's in a different gallery space. Okay. Okay, there. All right, so the remainder of these images are HP5, but again, the same development, right? What I'm calling a +4 Xtol push. Now, before we get too far into these, like, I'm pretty excited about how the HP5 looks in this. It's just like with Tri-X, I have mixed feelings about it as a film. There's times I don't like it, but I definitely liked it with this developer combination. I think it was, I can't remember if I was 1600 or 2000, but this is indoor lighting, right? So this is like right in a trampoline, indoor trampoline place. So it's pretty ugly, right above lighting, which I think is why I went with 1600. Is I didn't want it to just be like really contrasty, ugly interior lighting. My son Ellery, right? You got to run up this wall and grab on and pull yourself up, which he was able to do. So I'm glad I caught the moment, but I'm also like loving the grays and the grain. It's really nice. You know, here I'm just trying to capture how like absurd this place is when it's busy. This is like an obstacle course that you're supposed to like go through, right? Start on one end and go through it. But it's just total chaos, and there's like a kid on everything. And everybody's just waiting for someone else to get out of their way. Now I'm going to shoot another roll of HP5 pretty soon and put it through this development, because I shot this whole roll inside this place, so they're all it's all just inside lighting. But again, I chose HP5 partly because it is better in indoor lighting like this than Kodak films. Right, I like that George was like reaching with his foot here, and sort of this like horseshoe shape, this inflatable thing made. I got stuck between these two images. I didn't know which one was my favorite. I still haven't picked. A. B. I think I'm going to go with A, right? I like how much of a stretch that is. And you can see that with his face, just like how determined he is to get it. That one's good too. No, I just thought this girl with the earmuffs was awesome, and her, her friend's really into what she's doing. I'm zone focusing, by the way, right? And in a lot of these shots, I'm not even looking through the binder, right? I'm just shooting from the hip to get a lower perspective. You can tell here that, right, I kind of miss with the zone focusing. You can see I'm much sharper back here than him. So this was maybe one where zone focusing, I wouldn't say it cost me the shot, right? It sort of almost gives him this like, it still makes him stand out, right? I don't know. It's like a weird reverse 3D effect going on there. This one I call, what do I call it? I had a name for this one. Living the dream. Soaring like an eagle. Flying like a kite. I don't know. There's a lot of good names for it. That's my son. That's George. Look at that brave jump. Especially like, again, pushing the film, underexposing and pushing really adds to this shot, right? It turns this dark shadow, right, all this into a dark abyss, and just really makes it feel sort of the grandness of the jump. And it makes his arms stand out, right? Now I got two here. I got this one. I got 1 and 2. And again, I'm trying to decide which one I like. This one I like how you can really see all of his body and his face and how big he feels. It's sort of like a smile that's not a smile, right? But I don't like the branding And these other kids are sort of out of the picture. This one, I like that the branding is gone, and there's a little more going on with these other kids, right? All of these postures and even her positioning are more interesting. And then I sort of like the energy of this jump. So I think that's the one I'm going to end up keeping. And then again, right, if I just come in at 100%, I like what I see from HP5. I love George's, right? I just timed this one well. Right? I'm shooting film. You just like, it's hard to nail the moments. Well, I don't know if that's true, but I think I got this one. I'll just say that. Look at all these other kids, right? This is a Saturday. This one's just sweet for me, right? Just the expression. That's a precious face for me. His dad. Right. I'm shooting at f8. Right, indoors, like the lighting is probably like an EV of 7-8, and I also want to shoot with quite a bit of shutter speed because I'm trying to freeze action a lot, right? Like think about this shot. So I think I'm shooting at like 125 or maybe 250. So I needed every bit of speed that I could get, right? So another reason to go with this underexpose and push. I like the way the metal in here shows up. Really shows off the structure. George, and also George's gaze up, right? He's planning his next move. And here's George back here and Ellery in action. George climbing us. I do think I need to I don't do a lot of zone focusing. I think I could have done a little better job of focusing a little closer. Although I got it on this one. This was somehow this frame got a little bit of light on it. How did that happen? Was this the first shot of the roll? Did I show these? I think I actually showed these in reverse. That's what happened. This was the very first frame. Had a little bit of light on it. I sort of like those, right? It's like the same reason that a lot of like films that have been sort of have effects have become popular. Right? A lot of the stuff that happens to film is really cool looking, actually. And I sort of like my son Ellery's face here. He's I guess I don't quite know what the feel. It's like I want to assume that's a face of happiness, but it may also be a face of impatience as he waits for someone to get out of his way. I don't know. But okay, let's go back to this roll. I sort of like to find an image to kind of wrap up with. I'm going to choose this one. I'm pretty excited by all three rolls, and it's also been nice just to like shoot a bunch of underexposing pushed film in a row and sort of to get into a rhythm with thinking about, right, kind of what exposure do I want for this specific development type, this aggressive push, right, kind of be visualizing proactively in terms of like, okay, what's this gonna look like? Pushed. What do I want? I liked all three films enough to be like to definitely want to keep shooting them. I'm a little not totally sure about, like, I think double X. I'm either gonna choose 1000 or 1250. I haven't decided, and then Triax, like, I think because the grain does kind of come off still is a little bit sharper and a little bit finer. Like I almost want to like underexpose and push it even harder. Um, and then the HP5, like, this gives me kind of back to, has a little more of a classic look. Right, almost like a Foma 100 or something, where like I feel like I'm looking at older black and white photographs that I love. Like I fell in love with film grain. Um, so I don't know. I think that was. I think I was only 2 stops underexposed on this. Um, but it was such like bad interior lighting where I usually do shoot with daylight. So I might feel like I could go to almost maybe 3 stops under if I was actually shooting with daylight. Um, but I definitely like the film almost like I think it's come across as both sharper and better grain than what I usually get from HP5. So and then I'm gonna again, I made another video today that's all about the development if you want to see that. And I'm shooting P33 right now that I'm going to do this +4 push with. And I've got some other films lined up, curious to see what happens with them. And I'm just going to spend some time. I mean, I've also got some color films I want to shoot too, but I think I'm gonna have maybe a camera with color film in it, and then otherwise just kind of stay in this world of pushing black and white film pretty aggressively, which right now means like 90 degrees, 9 minutes in Xtol. So, all right, bye Ellery, bye George.